The dinos are back in the modern world, and this time it's on Oak Street. It is what happens when you drop a seemingly normal 1980s American neighborhood into a prehistoric death trap. Here is why David Rod Mitchell's sci fi gamble works so well. Now imagine a doomsday scenario. In this scenario, the humans are fighting against an insurmountable odd. Now take that scenario and scale it way down, like maybe to the size of a cul-de-sac or a neighborhood. That's exactly what this movie is. The residents of this neighborhood are suddenly thrust into a prehistoric dino crystal maze where every single time they have to fight for survival. One wrong move, one wrong turn, and they're done. They're basically fighting for something that they've been taking for granted all this time, their very existence. Not exactly how I'd want to spend my Sunday morning, if you ask me. Now for the creature designs. Now this movie's creature designs were just amazing. I think it was its strongest suit. Now imagine Jurassic Park for a second. In Jurassic Park, when you see a Tyrannosaurus Rex, or when you see a Stegosaurus or a Triceratops, no matter what tiny changes or alterations they make to its appearance, we already know what they look like. We know what to expect. We know what kind of scene unfolds with them in it. However, with this movie, everything was unpredictable. That unpredictability was very important. It really lent well to the experience. I mean, these dinosaurs, they seem really wild. They seem feral. And they had feathers. Thank goodness for that. Because I strongly feel that historically, as far as historical accuracy is concerned, dinosaurs did have some level of feathers. And I'm glad this movie acknowledged that. And they also seemed good to look at. They were colorful. At the same time, they were not tamed, they were not cooked up in a lab. These were real dinosaurs from an unforgiving prehistoric jungle, and they're suddenly thrust into this polished environment. And the contrast between these two was just really good. Now, when I talk about creature designs, I'm not just talking about their appearance. That is down. We got the appearance down. Now, the what I really liked also was their behavior, their predatory instincts, their mannerisms. Everything was caught to perfection. For example, when the dinosaurs first come into this world, their first behavioral trait was curiosity. They are moving around, they're checking the surroundings out. They're like, where the hell are we? That's the kind of impression they gave. But the moment they spot their prey, our humans, they suddenly change their stance, they change their gait, they suddenly lurch down, they slowly start building momentum, and they attack. Every single one of these was caught beautifully. It's not like it just happened, just the scene happened and suddenly they just jumped out of nowhere, or they really went systematically with this. These small details really impressed me with this in this film. I really enjoyed it. It felt natural. It felt they didn't feel like CGI or animatronic puppets. No, they actually felt like real dinosaurs. And the other thing I think really have to give props to this movie for is diversity. We got different kinds of dinosaurs, guys. That is something that is rare. I mean, again, back to Jurassic Park. Even though there are varieties of dinosaurs in the Jurassic World franchise as well as the Jurassic Park franchise, we always feel that the T-Rex or the Mosasaurus or something like that would really overshadow everything else. We go there for those dinosaurs. But in this movie, we saw all kinds of them, whether they're dangerous or not. And in fact, I would say it's a real step up for the dino franchise as a whole. Why should always the T-Rex get the spotlight? Why should it always be a Spinosaurus? There are other dinosaurs that are just as badass. For example, the Allosaurus, which is one of the main villains in this. It was great. It was terrifying, and it's quite dangerous and powerful. So it is where it is going. We need. I think other dinosaurs need to get spotlight from here on out. I think that would be a real refreshing take. Annie Hathaway and Evan McGregor did a pretty good job in this. They convinced me that this couple was down to earth. Their interactions, their chemistry, everything seemed pretty natural and organic. Nothing seemed forced. However, despite the good acting, I have to flip the coin here. The characters in this movie were very boring. That's right. None of them were interesting. They had no memorable lines. They did not have any memorable moments. I mean, they were pretty badly written, in my opinion. If only the characters were great, of course, I don't expect them to be Alan Grant or some great characters right, who will remember for a lifetime. No, but at least interesting characters who you don't just forget moment you get out of the theater. You don't take them with you at home. You don't remember them. You don't remember their lines or quotes. Nothing. So that was a bit of a letdown. However, that being said, the characters being boring and down to earth actually, ironically, played well to this film because the dinosaurs seem more dangerous. Now, look, imagine if instead of these people, it was, say, a Black Ops team or a SWAT team or maybe some super soldier or probably someone who knows the dinosaurs inside out, like paleontologists like Alan Grant or Laura Dern's character in Jurassic Park. If it was them, it is not much of a mystery because it is not much of a thrill because they know how to get past these creatures. They know these creatures in and out. They know their strengths, weaknesses, how they behave. They're much more better equipped to deal with these creatures. But these people, they're just normal people with normal problems. They just want to get about their lives. Then they're suddenly facing these monstrous creatures. It is a real shock. The shock factor is everything in this. they have to deal with this, and they don't really have weapons at their disposal. They're not trained. They're not skilled. No, they're just regular people, and that is what makes this movie so interesting. In fact, their movie Resident Evil that's coming in September, which adopted the exact same approach: a normal guy in an extraordinary situation. And that's exactly what the End of Oak Street's real strength is. This is what makes the dinosaurs so scary. It's not just their designs or not just their appearance. The pacing in this movie, in my opinion, was actually great. There was not a single wasted moment. There was not a single time when the energy was low. I actually enjoyed myself in every single frame. I mean, the script went well. Even though the characters as are badly written or could have been written better, the script was actually good. I mean, it used the runtime pretty effectively. We got the right balance of action as well as conversations and family moments. And that, I think, it really matters, because this shows that the movie was crafted with care, and actually they cared about balance. Balance is something that's missing in a lot of movies, especially the tonal balance. It's very inconsistent, and not every director is equipped to handle an inconsistent tone perfectly. So I think this one Mitchell did a very good job in this. It's a perfect mix of action, adventure, and horror. Yeah, and here is my lingering suspicion. What if this is Cloverfield 4? I mean, yeah, it is officially declared that it's not. I mean, J.J. Abrams, as well as the director, has said this is an individual movie. It's its own beast. It has nothing to do with the Cloverfield franchise. But there's nothing wrong in some fan fiction, nothing wrong in speculating a bit, because it really fits the mold perfectly. Think about it. The reactor fired in space. And suddenly as one of the events, among the many events, was the dinosaurs shifted from their era to this modern district here. Why can't that be the case? I mean, it can perfectly fit the mold. It's something that I always pondered about. But however, unfortunately, that's not the case. It's not official because it's not true. But like I said, speculating things like this really makes the movie all the more exciting, because it doesn't have to be just an individual movie. It can be part of something greater. Now, the way this movie ended, it's not what you would expect. I mean, honestly, for me, it was a bit dissatisfactory because there was no real payoff. There was no real finality. I would have preferred that in the movie like this, because this is not the kind of movie I would expect to spawn a franchise. It looks like a one and done deal. Of course, if they do make more movies, I'm quite happy. But the ending was a bit unsatisfactory. However, I like that they adopted it was not what I expected at all. It was completely different, completely new. Let me put it this way. I'm sure all of you have seen Groundhog Day. All of you have seen like Edge of Tomorrow. Yeah, think of the concepts in that. Yeah, the same concept is applied into this movie in a more elaborate fashion. Just I'll leave it at that. So once you go into the movie, you'll understand what I'm talking about. It actually works for the movie, but I just felt there should be a little more finality, or something that, some cliffhanger probably, or something that led into another movie. So basically, something we can actually understand, and there should be a sense of closure. End of Oak Street may not be Jurassic Park. I mean, not even close. However, as a survival thriller, as a contained claustrophobic horror, it actually delivers. So sound off in the comments below regarding your take. Do consider liking, sharing, and subscribing with the bell button so that you don't miss my next breakdown of Mutiny. Now that's going to be fun. And let's embrace cinema together.